What's up, gardeners? Today we're gonna plant a mango tree. Mango, my favorite tree, my favorite fruit. I'm super excited. I'm gonna give you all the steps to plant a mango tree. Come on, let's go. What's up, guys? So here I am in front of this mango tree. This is a Phoenix mango tree that I picked up from Seamus O'Leary about a year ago. It's just been sitting here in the pot for the past year. I haven't planted it. I'm finally getting around to plant it, and I want to show you how I plant all my mango trees. Last week we did a video on planting this guy, this date palm tree, and now we're going to plant the mango tree. It's very similar, but there are a few differences, so that's why I wanted to do a separate video for just planting the mango tree. So first off, let's talk about the things you want and need to do before you actually plant the tree in the ground. The first thing is you need to know where the tree wants to be. My rule of thumb, anytime you plant anything, is don't plant it where you want to plant it. So don't look and be like, oh, that would be a really cool place. A mango tree would look really good right there. Don't plant it where you want. Instead, find out what type of conditions mango trees need to live and to thrive, and then plant it there. So with mango trees, it's actually not the heat and the sun that will kill them here in the desert Southwest. It's the cold in the winter. So what I try to do with all of my mango trees is find a place in the winter where it's gonna get the most sun. In the winter, the sun is gonna shift a little bit to the south and it's gonna come down this way. So if you can plant on a south-facing wall, that's awesome, because all winter long, it's gonna get direct sun and it's gonna keep it nice and warm. In the winter, mangoes want a spot that is hot and sunny. So find a place like that. Maybe in the summer, that will get a little bit of dampened shade, some afternoon shade, but in the winter, get full, awesome, hot sun. That's what mango trees want. And also, if you can see, I am planting the mango tree right here. My pool is 5 feet away. I think in the winter, the pool generates a little bit of heat. It may not be a lot, but it's probably a little bit of heat from the pool. And so I think that planting the mango tree closer here to the pool will help it during the winter. Okay, and one other thing that I want to point out as I'm standing right next to this mango that's actually growing, when I have mangoes in the pot that are not yet in the ground, I will allow my mango tree to fruit, as long as it's a decent sized mango tree. So that's why I've allowed this one to fruit. Once I get mango trees in the ground, I do not allow them to fruit for 3 years. Yes, 3 years, that's a long time. You have to be patient, but if you can allow your mango tree to wait 3 years before you let it fruit, in the long run, you're gonna be a lot happier. Your mango tree is gonna be a lot happier, and over a long period of time, you're gonna have more mangoes. All right, so when I'm planting a tree, and by the way, this is a method that a lot of people use. It's customed a little bit to me, as I've planted about 100 trees. I've kind of customed it to me. So there are a few different ways to do it, but this is how I do it, and this is the way I've found success. I always start by digging the hole. You want to dig the hole deeper and wider than the actual pot. Why do you do this? If the pot isn't that big, why do you dig a hole that big? Well, we're digging a hole a lot bigger than the pot, and then we're backfilling into the hole. And we're doing that because our clay here in the desert Southwest, here in Arizona, is very clayish. It's very stuck together. And so if you can loosen it and then backfill it, okay, now you have loose soil, and the brand new tree that is now in the ground can spread its roots out a lot easier than if it's trying to get into that compact clay. So you want to dig the hole. Usually I do like 3 feet deep, 3 feet wide in diameter. And something else when it comes to digging holes, because we have the super compact soil and clay, we need to make sure that we have good drainage. If we don't have good drainage, you're wasting your time. You can dig an awesome hole, plant an awesome tree in the perfect location, but if you don't have drainage, your tree is not going to do well. It's probably going to die. So what do we do to make sure we have good drainage? I dig the hole. Immediately after digging it, I will fill it up with water all the way, and I'll let it drain. And then after that, I go and I fill it back up again, and I let it drain. If it does not drain within 24 hours, you do not have good drainage, and you need to do one of two things. You either need to dig deeper until you get past all that compact clay and caliche, and you also probably need to add gypsum, which will help loosen and soften up that soil so that it can absorb more water. But until you get that hole to drain within 24 hours, do not plant the tree. So I've already done that in this hole so that we don't have to wait a whole 24 hours here on video, and it is good to go. I actually used to have a tree planted here. It was a coconut palm. I didn't take care of it in the winter and it froze. And so I ripped it out and I'm ready to go with this awesome hole that has very good drainage. All right, and as I dig my holes, I always have my wheelbarrow close by, and I throw all the native soil here into the wheelbarrow. And why do I do that? I do that because we need to amend the soil. In the last video, when we planted my date palm over here, I talked about the ratio. I usually like to do 70% native soil, 30% amendments. With mango trees, here's what I have found. I like to add even less amendments than that. I like to keep as much native soil and clay in the hole that I can. Now, why is that? I found that the sooner you can get mangoes accustomed to the native soil, the better they're going to do. Part of the reason I don't let them fruit for 3 years is because it takes them a while to get accustomed to the native soil and to be able to like it. So a lot of times what'll happen is someone will be able to build an awesome hole, put a mango tree in there, and backfill it with tons of amendments. And for the first year and a half, 2 years, the mango tree is awesome. They're getting lots of mangoes, it looks good. And then come year 3 and the mango just completely takes a turn for the worse and it looks horrible. It stops producing, sometimes it even dies. And that's because at about year 3, it's now spreading its roots into that native soil and it doesn't like it. It's not used to it. And so the tree completely shuts down. So I try to use enough amendments to make the tree happy initially, but as little as possible so that the mango tree can start getting accustomed to our native soil ASAP. So instead of doing 70-30, I'm probably gonna do 80-20, maybe even 85-15 in terms of amendments. So I always use a good compost. There's a few different places. Arizona Worm Farm here in Arizona is awesome. It's a little bit far for me, so I can't always go out there. I like this composted mulch. It's from A&P Nursery. My trees have all done really well with it. And then I also always add in, because again, our soil sometimes does not drain very well, so I add in some sand into my mixture because sand will help with the drainage. And it's very simple. I throw a little bit of sand in here and I throw a little bit of compost in here. Then I mix it up and then it's ready to go back into the hole along with the tree. So that's what I'm gonna do now. All right, and as you can see, I did not throw a lot because again, I don't like to throw tons of amendments in the hole with my mango tree. And then from there, the reason I put it in the wheelbarrow to begin with is because now I can easily mix it up. All right, so now that I have my soil mixed up, I have my tree here, I have my hole dug, I know it has good drainage, I found a good spot, I know the mango tree is gonna do well here, it's gonna keep warm in the middle of the winter. So now I'm ready to start filling back up the hole. So as I talked about, I dug the hole deeper than this actual pot. Also, one other thing that we need to keep in mind, when we're amending the soil, taking it out, putting it back in, the soil is going to settle over time. So we need to make sure that we plant the tree 2 or 3 inches higher than you would think. We do this for a number of reasons. The first thing, like I said, it's going to settle. The second thing, trees do not like to be buried too deeply. You may not think it, but trees have roots and those roots like oxygen. Even though they're underground, they like to be able to breathe. And if you plant them too deep, the roots are not going to be able to breathe. The tree is not going to be happy. When it comes to all trees and planting them, we need to make sure that we're not planting the root flare. What is a root flare? If you come up here, you can see these guys right here. You can see the roots coming off. We do not want to bury these. We don't want to put the soil up to here because again, that's going to suffocate the tree. So we want to make sure once we have it in the ground, the soil is only coming up to about right here. So we need to plant a couple inches higher because the soil is going to settle and we don't want to bury this. So keep that in mind anytime you're planting a tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to start backfilling the hole with the soil that I've amended. And then once it's tall enough, we'll get this tree out of the pot, we'll throw it in there and we'll continue on. And to help with the settling of the soil, you can even get in here and pat it down. Not going to do any harm by patting it down. You're going to help with the settling so you know you're planting your tree at the right height. All right, and if you're smart, you can take a tape measure, make sure that it's now deep enough. But if you don't have a tape measure, you're just going to grab the tree, put it in the hole, and see if it's the right height. And perfect. That looks just about right to where it's in the hole. We're going to have some good height on here. We're not going to be planting it too deep. So now I'm going to pull this back out. and we're gonna prepare the tree to come out of this pot. All right, and if you didn't know, it is the middle of July. We're in Arizona. It is extremely hot and humid. So you may be wondering why in the world I would plant a tree in the middle of the summer. Well, the reason being is because remember, mangoes can handle the heat and the sun okay. It's the cold they don't like. So if I can plant this tree in the middle of July, it's gonna be happy. It's gonna start establishing its roots so that way when the cold comes, it has better established roots and it can better protect itself and survive the cold. So the sooner in the summer that you plant the mangoes, the better off they're gonna be in the winter. So don't be afraid to plant things in the middle of the summer. As long as it's a tree that likes the heat and sun like most tropicals do, it's gonna be just fine. It might just be a little bit hot for you, but the tree itself is gonna like it. All right, so when I plant my trees, I try to protect the roots as much as possible. That prevents transplant shock. Transplant shock usually is because when us humans are messing with these trees, trying to take the pots off, we mess with the roots. The roots don't want to be messed with, and so then you get it in the ground and it has a little bit of transplant shock. So the way that I combat transplant shock is I cut the pot. I cut the bottom of the pot off, then I put it in the ground, and then from there, I'll just cut the pot off, boom, take it off. It's sitting there in the hole. I didn't have to shake it and pick it up and move it, and the roots are happy. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna cut out the bottom, then I'm gonna get it in the ground. All right, so then, as you can tell, the bottom is off. So now the pot is ready to go here in the ground, so I'm just gonna lift it in, nice and slow. Perfect. And then I'm gonna move it to where I want it positioned the best. Because I have the grapevines back here, and this side is kind of jutting out. It has more room to jut out here, so that's how I'm gonna position it to where it can jut out here. So now it's in the pot, or in the hole. I'm gonna grab my knife, and now I'm just going to cut the rest of the pot off of the tree. You can see it comes right out, and here we go. We have the perfect root ball. I never had to mess with it. The roots are happy. Hopefully this minimizes root shock. All right, and now that it's in the hole, I'm gonna get the rest of this amended soil and fill it up. All right, and once you get it in there, you just want to come in here and compact it all down. And if you can see, what do you see here? Root flare, root flare, root flare. I mean, it's not planted too deep. It's even probably up a little bit too high, but that's okay. It's gonna settle. You always want to see that root flare. Do not bury it. All right, and now that I have all of the dirt in here, now we need to take and make a berm around the tree. Making a berm around the tree is very important, especially when the tree is brand new, when you just planted it, because the tree doesn't have roots that are spread out all over the place. The tree only has roots right now, right here on this root ball. So if you have a berm and you fill it up with water, the water's not gonna escape. Instead, the water is gonna go straight down right onto this root ball. I have another video where I talk about watering, and I say you need to water very infrequently, but very deeply and slowly. That is the case on established trees, but it's not the case on brand new trees. And again, the reasoning behind that is because the roots are not spread out, they're just right here on the root ball. So instead of infrequent and long, you want to water more frequently and short, at least for the first few weeks, until the roots start to get established and move out. Then you can move to less frequent, longer waterings. So let's build the berm. When I build berms, I always throw a little bit of native soil off to the side, and I use the native soil to build the berm because, again, the native soil is very clay-like and it will stick together and it will form a nice berm that's not going to get washed away. So let's build the berm. Okay, so now I have the berm where it's going to catch the water. So now I just need to add a few more amendments to the top. So I'm going to add some more of that compost that I had. And I'm also going to add some worm castings. Worm castings are great, guys. It's It's all natural. It's not gonna burn anything. You can add as much worm castings as you need, and your plants are going to love it. So I'm gonna throw some compost on here. I'm gonna throw some worm castings on here. And also guys, if you look at my other video up here where I talk about growing mangoes in general, you'll remember that mangoes do not like the high pH of our soil. So after a few months, I'm going to start applying sulfur in this basin as well, and that's gonna help lower the pH of the soil. But for now, I'm just gonna add some compost and some worm castings. And as you're doing this, guys, take a look. What can you still see? The roof layers. You always want to see the roof layers. Even when you put mulch, compost, worm castings, you need to see the roof layer. Do not bury that. The tree will not be able to breathe. It won't be happy. All right, and now that I have this here, I am going to water it, and then we're gonna add mulch on top. So in a lot of my videos, I talk about mulch. You can check it out here. Mulch is very important, especially in the middle of the summer when it's hot. Mulch will help hold the moisture in. It will break down. It will be organic, natural fertilizer for your tree. So you need to add mulch on top so that all this soil under here does not dry out. So I'm gonna throw some mulch on, I'm gonna water it, and then we're gonna be good to go. And also when you're doing mulch, you don't wanna throw it all up against the trunk. You wanna keep this free. You wanna keep, again, letting the roof layer breathe. For mulch, you can use anything. These are Bermuda clippings, some bamboo, litter. You can use anything for mulch. No Bermuda grass, if you clip it and throw it in here, it's not gonna grow in here, I promise. I do it all the time, I use it for all my trees. So now that I have some mulch in here, and I'll add some more mulch when I have some more time, but now that I have some mulch in here, I'm gonna water it. All right, so now I have the water. I'm gonna keep it, again, nice and moist throughout the next few weeks. You wanna make sure that this root ball does not dry out, because it doesn't have established roots that can go look for water. So the only way it's gonna get water is by you sitting here and giving it water. So you wanna water frequently, but you don't need to water that much every time you water. Again, you just wanna make sure that you're keeping that root ball moist. And then once the tree is established, again, check out my other videos for how to properly water an established tree. So I'm just gonna let this sit here for a few minutes, let it all soak in, and then we have an awesome mango tree ready to go. Guys, I love mangoes, they're my favorite fruit. If you don't have a mango tree, go and plant one, and plant it just like this. You will see success, and you will have mangoes, and you will be happy. All right, guys, that is it. I am hot, I am tired, but the mango is in the ground, and I'm excited to have awesome Phoenix mangoes here in a few years. This is Jade. She's been behind the camera the whole time watching me plant this tree. She's the junior expert. She knows a lot about gardening, but she has something she wants to say.
Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time you post a new video.
That's right, guys. You heard it from Jade. Like the video, share, subscribe, leave in the comments if you want to see any videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.